Just want to preface this review by saying I'm still recovering from COVID, so forgive me if there are any audio inconsistencies. Anyway, on to the review. King Arthur's Knight's Tale. I've actually followed this game for a while since it was revealed in early access. XCOM with swords and wizards, yes please. The tactical RPG genre is filled with a plethora of different titles trying to fill the XCOM shoes, and in my opinion, I don't think any game has yet to take that title from XCOM 2. With its unprecedented mod support, its S-Class expansions, and a deep engaging campaign, that's like trying to fight Mike Tyson in his prime. However, does Knight's Tale have what it takes to come close to dethroning XCOM 2? Let's find out. Here is the King Arthur Knight's Tale review. Enjoy. There is less emphasis on graphics on games from indie studios. Whenever I review them, I always say to myself it'd be unfair to compare them to AAA studios, so let's instead look at the art style, the general look and feel of the UI amongst other things. Generally speaking, you don't see Arthurian mythology often, so when I do see it I get quite excited. The theme lends itself well to the style of the game, where you can really take time to admire the surrounding architecture between the turns. Characters are really fleshed out in equally enticing gear, anything from a full suit of armor to a wizardly robe adorned with the skulls of your teammates. It can go from medieval to macabre and back again. I actually love this take on Arthurian mythology. Don't get me wrong, I love the realist nitty-gritty games of Kingdom Come, which captures a different time period in a different country. But I never knew how much I loved the supernatural take on this particular genre with knights. The visual flair is so appealing to me, and so many XCOMs try to copy the UI almost exactly, and regardless of the theme, it comes to a point where it becomes stale, where King Arthur is comfortable doing its own thing in its visuals and its UI. The one aspect of the visuals that really struck me as detailed and well thought out were the spells and abilities. There are a slew of abilities, quite literally dozens, each of them having their own sub-abilities that change the function and feel, and these abilities are awesome not only in their visual spectacle but their application too. I've called down dragons, chained lightning in between foes, launched huge fireballs, and teleported next to enemies to strike them down with a two-handed sword. This looked amazing, it was flashy, powerful, and it kept me wanting to unlock more and more abilities, and I really enjoyed the visual spectacle. King Arthur's Knight's Tale does a lot of things right when it comes to turn-based combat. There is an inextricable feeling of meticulous design later on in the game when you have to piece together how the equipment works. The game functions very much like any other tactical RPG that has followed the XCOM formula. In this game, each character will have equipment slots in the form of armor, weapons, accessories, and battle items. These come in their different rarities ranging from normal to relic. Relic level items are where this game's combat system really comes to life. When you find the right one, they seamlessly intertwine themselves with the class system. For example, Lancelot is classed as a champion, a hero who uses two-handed weaponry with a massive one-shot capability and punishing AoEs, but he lacks movement range. I had found a relic that allowed Lancelot to teleport from one enemy to the next after each kill. Add in some armor that restores action points per kill and you basically have an almost unkillable juggernaut. The system worked so well I felt like Goku doing an instant transmission. The class system is varied and you'll have access to all the base classes which share some skills, but then each hero has abilities that are exclusive to them. My hero Merlin could call down dragons, stacking fire and burn damage, and my other mage class could cast consistently devastating debuffs, rendering the entire army useless. It feels so good finding equipment that just gels, and a character that usually warms the bench can go from 0 to hero very quickly with the right gear. Which you'll need because the latter part of the game quickly outnumbers you in the latter acts and you'll find yourself visiting the graveyard pretty often. Okay, so we have a great class and equipment system. What else? You also find that you have to manage Camelot. Yes, Camelot acts as your home base. You acquire gold and building materials that can be used to upgrade buildings, which grant various benefits such as a faster recovery from injury or faster shop rerolls. These materials are quite scarce, so you'll have to make your decisions carefully as the game progresses, otherwise you'll find yourself pretty stuck as the game gets quite punishing, especially on the harder difficulties. Not having that one hero who has crowd control swiftly means that the enemies overwhelm you, causing your squad's demise. Alongside this, you'll be in charge of a morality system. There are 4 options here which decide the outcome of certain missions and even the alignment of your characters. Your decisions are recorded for reference, and each choice you make will move your character towards unlocking a new bonus for your home base, or unlocking characters, or just an extra unlock in the shop. Your choices really have this tangible effect on how you play the game, especially when you learn to rely on special heroes towards the end of each tree who have unique and powerful skills that carry you through the deluge of enemies that are presented to you. Any games that allow agency through the choices that you have made, that then have a tangible effect on the outcome of your experience, are always good in my books. Even if the systems aren't implemented as well as, let's say, a AAA developer's systems, as long as they're not pseudo systems with no consequence that leave you feeling like you're seeing another Mass Effect 3 ending, then it's fine. I think that there's games like Biomutant which give you the impression that the choices that you make have some kind of impact on the story, but ultimately let you down, whereas games like Shadow of Mordor give you this nemesis system where you really feel the impact of everything you do, and I really wish the developers would take more of a King Arthur / Shadow of Mordor approach rather than a Biomutant approach. Starting the game, you'll be greeted by an epic cinematic clash between 2 armies. You can't tell which side you'll be on, and as the next scene plays, you see an ominous silhouette of a towering man donning spiked armor moving towards the camera. As it turns out, we play the anti-hero. A refreshing change, I must admit, but what's even more fascinating is that we are then free to mold and shape the character as we see fit, changing the outcomes of the characters we come across based on the ideology we decide to adopt. It's an interesting system laced with peculiar Arthurian mythology and an arguably enticing writing story and background. However, the writing is held back by the voice work, which I'll address in the sound design. In terms of the story though, you'll be chasing after King Arthur and what has become of him after the opening of the game. Throughout this story you'll meet legends of Camelot as well as new and mystical characters based on small tidbits of history. And as you recruit more heroes and delve into mission after mission, this tapestry will unfold and lay itself bare before you. In my entire playthrough, I only encountered 2 bugs. One involved my units not being able to move, which was resolved with a reload, and the second was a delay in starting a battle, and this happened twice. Now, although these are annoying, they are sparse and not really worth distracting yourself from. In terms of performance, I was running everything at max settings and was maintaining 70 frames per second on every map except for one, which for some reason ran at 46 frames a second and wouldn't budge. On 2K and 1080p the game ran at over 100 FPS, and overall the game is well polished and the performance was adequate running on a 3080. I imagine that running on a different card, an older card, would still be very good as this game is highly polished and there aren't too many maps with problems.
This is the entrance of the sacred tomb. A week ago, the bell of Bane started to ring. It remained silent even after the storm. So now, we are worried that something terrible is happening. The whole Christendom is in danger. This tomb is the center of the faith. The first Christian who came to Avalon is buried here. You could call him that. He was the beacon for other Christians to find this paradise. No, he died many years ago. but his bones have remained the focus of the Christian faith in Avalon. They are... Follow me! There he is, the White Knight. Oh no. Get ready. Evil is coming. I can feel it.
The soundtrack is limited, which is to be expected when it comes from an indie studio. Now, when it comes to battle tracks, there is one saying I live by when it comes to assessing these battle tracks. If after 50 hours the battle track becomes a part of the background and you don't notice it, then the developers have done a good job. The key aspect of any battle track is to set the theme without seeming too repetitive and have it blend into the background. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to every game, especially games like Persona, but with studios where they are an indie studio and have less resources, it applies much more. Overall, the battle track and the combat sounds were decent, with some interesting variants when it came to the spells and abilities, and even the voice work was good during the dispatching of enemies. But the voice work in general for the story and overall campaign was god awful. Maybe 5 characters had good voice work and the others were just terrible. It's so cringe. More often than not, I'd be rolling my eyes to what they were saying. I understand that voice work is incredibly expensive, but often at times I thought it was better to not have any voice work than to listen to overacted and pedantic voice work. It really detracted from the atmosphere of the game, and if it wasn't for me reviewing it, I probably would have skipped most of the villager interactions because I found that it was so grating. Overall, a decent attempt at a soundtrack, but yeah, the voice work just kind of really brought it down for me. Ultimately, I think there are lots of tactical RPGs out there, and they often fall to the wayside either due to a lack of individuality or balancing issues, or perhaps their systems don't work correctly. I think that that's not the case with King Arthur. It really stood out from the rest, and even in its early access, the developers worked diligently to ensure that this game wouldn't be lost in the pack. This game offers tons of things to those who need their XCOM itch scratched. The time to completion, the replayability is also another shining factor for this game. Even after the completion of the main story, you'll have a huge endgame where you need to manage your squad very carefully in order to reach that final battle, especially on the higher difficulties. You'll definitely get your money's worth here without a doubt, and I'm going to go ahead and greenlight this game. I do think it's worth every penny that you spend. Whether it be through the Arthurian mythology, the tactical combat, or simply having something substantial to sink your teeth into, there's something for everyone. And with that said, thanks for tuning into the review and for your continued support, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.